Hi, 3DMJers. This is Andrea Valdez, and you are listening to the 3D Muscle Journey podcast. In this second episode of our one-on-one team interviews, we will be featuring Brad Loomis. Like I said in the last episode, as it's now December 2016, we'd like to close out the year with some State of the Coach addresses. Basically, we're asking the same questions to each person to see where they stand throughout this annual change, and it's something we plan on doing every year. Moving along with Brad as our second person in the hot seat, we'll discuss our lives as athletes and professionals in this industry. We talk about what a typical day looks like for each coach, where they stand in their athletic journey, what their diet and training looks like right now, and if there are any major lessons learned in 2016 along the way. I'll also ask Brad about some of his coaching milestones this past year and what other professional endeavors he plans to chase in 2017. We'll then end the interviews on a personal note, discussing any other resolutions, hobbies, favorite things, and ambitions for the year ahead. So, like I said, this will carry on each week with every coach getting their own time in the spotlight. This is number 2. We kind of do it because we started our podcast with the individual 3DMJ Origins episodes, and they were really well received. So, it's cool to hear how much we've changed over just the past few months as individuals. So again, what I think is the coolest about these episodes and what's most important is that they carry a lot of value for the listeners and that they display how incredibly different the 5 of us are as athletes and as humans. We have different routines, we eat differently, we train differently, all while carrying the same core values of discipline, dedication, and desire that keep us united as the 3DMJ family. So I hope you guys get a lot out of these 5 year-end episodes. Here is the 2016 Coaches Spotlight episode featuring Brad Loomis. I know it's like the end of Thanksgiving weekend, so at the moment, this is probably not a typical day for you. But if you could walk us through a normal day in the life of Brad, can you even? Do you have normal days, and what does it look like?
I have like 2 normal days,
okay.
I guess you might say.
Explain why there's 2.
I've got my normal day when I'm here.
Right.
When I'm doing 3D Muscle Journey work and I'm training here on my back porch. Mm-hmm. And then I've got in Reno, where I'm there 2 days a week working my, other job as a CAT scan tech. So right. Yeah, I guess a normal day here, which is 80% of the time.
Right.
Usually get up and either, if I get up early, I'll take the kid to school. And if not, I'll just get up when I get up. And either way, once either I take him to school or I just get up when I get up, I usually just dive right into work. Okay. I'll make myself a nice big cup of coffee and I usually just get right into it. Because a lot of times I wake up like ready to go. Once I kind of rub the sleep out of my eyes and I kind of just, get my feet underneath me, I'm just ready to go.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just dive right into it. Usually I'll knock out either a bunch of client work or I'll just go through, emails and just start putting them in their little folders because I'm kind of a really anal systems guy. I like having these emails in that folder and these emails in that folder. Yeah. And so I'll usually kind of start things out that way. And then usually about that time is when I'll just Skype. So I like to do at least 1 Skype a day. Mm-hmm. So usually my flow gets a little bit interrupted, but it's kind of like, it's all the same to me. It's like I'm making videos or I'm talking to the person on Skype. So it's kind of the same thing. I guess it doesn't really get interrupted. That's probably not a very good word to use, huh?
Well, how long is your block of this? Like when you say, like, do you take Skypes at the same time every day?
Pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty much. It's usually right kind of late morning, mid to early afternoon usually.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I just try to get it done, or at least a good chunk of it done. I like to go get the kid from school. Mm-hmm. And then usually the evening is just kind of like I'm either training or it's a mix. You know what I mean? I'm a dabbler a lot of times once I get all done with work. Okay. Even though I'm done with work, I'm done doing coaching, and I'm done making videos, I still dabble in it. Right. I'm kind of bad that way. I don't just leave. And it's right here. I mean, the kitchen's there. Xander's sitting right over there playing PlayStation right now. Uh-huh. The gym is right over there, my back porch gym. So I'm still dabbling, and I just do that the rest of the evening, really.
So what time about is that when you say I did my coaching stuff and then there's the evening time?
Usually about 3 or 4.
Oh, okay. Same as Eric.
Usually
Or
I'll
not
just,
really. Like
I'll
once
usually
he,
just kind of,
yeah.
go ahead.
No, I was saying that's the same as Eric. Once he finishes work, except he doesn't do the evening dabbling. He told us about what he does in the evenings, but um, I'm the opposite one, and we'll talk about that in my episode. But I didn't realize that yours was till 3 or 4, and then you take him. California goes to school early, like 7:30 or something, huh?
They usually have to be at school at 8, right at 8 o'clock.
Okay, yeah, okay,
Yeah. Yeah. And then, like I'm kind of weird that way. I dabble. Sometimes like all night, I'll just dabble. If football's on, I'll go watch Monday Night Football and I'll come in here and dabble, and then I'll go out and do a set and, play with the kid. And I'm kind of weird that way.
I forget you mean when you say dabble, you mean like mid-workout.
Yeah.
I forget that you say.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it is right
I'm
there.
kind of weird that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Because it's all right here. So.
Okay. Do you take naps? This is just a random question. Or do you work like.
Mm-hmm,
okay.
I take frequent naps, actually. Okay. I used to take about a nap every day.
Okay.
Yeah.
In terms of training, too, let's talk about what you're training for right now. Like, as far as you as an athlete, what are the goals in the next 6 months, year, 5 years kind of thing? Like, where are you right now?
I don't know if I could go as far as
5 years.
Years.
Okay. The most immediate big goal, I guess. Like when you say, what are you training for? When someone asks you that, like, what does that mean to you?
It's predominantly powerlifting.
Okay.
That's kind of my little thing that I really, really dig right now. Big goals that I still haven't achieved that I've been working on for about the last 18 months. I want to get either a 1,300 total.
Okay.
Which is basically, that's a decent total. It's a good total if you're 165 pounds body weight. It's a decent total if you're 181. Really, right now, I don't even care what my body weight is. I just want to get that.
Okay.
Beyond that, I would really like to have a 600 kilo total, which is a little over 1,300.
Okay.
It's kind of like those are my big numbers right now. Me being the numbers geek, it's either 1,300 pounds, 600 kilo total, and then eventually elite powerlifter, which, it's kind of like, well, that you're a pro bodybuilder. What's so hard about that? That's a very hard thing to achieve. And they keep making it harder every year. But yeah, I mean, listeners can just kind of figure out, if you're 181 pounds, just figure out what your lift would be to get a 1,300 total, Not very many people can do that.
I was going to say, you're like, it's pretty good. I'm like, no, that's actually really good. That's really, really good. So that is a big goal. I like, too, that you said your goals are related to totals regardless of body weight. And that matters more to you than, like, placing or elite status or stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Which is the opposite of how you started bodybuilding.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, those are kind of goals right now. And then I'm sure they're going to, and I tell people this all the time when I coach them. I'm like, it's hard to make 3, 4, 5-year goals because your focus might change,
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like as long as I keep goals in the realm of what it is that we love to do, whether it be powerlifting, bodybuilding, in your case, grid, CrossFit, or whatever else pops up. I mean, who knows,
Yeah.
There might be something really cool that we like. It's really hard. I just feel like as long as we're working that direction in our field right now, whatever it is, we're going to be able to probably be pretty successful.
Right. So in working towards that goal with, let's say, the 1,300 total being the predominant one, or the closest one, right? The nearest. What's your training like right now? Not just, I know you do the big 3, but like maybe now compared to what it was a couple years ago, is your focus changing? Is the split changing? Is the days per week change? Like all, like kind of that stuff. Just tell me about your training program for you.
Well, it has changed in that I actually will say that I do a lot more high rep stuff than I used to. And mostly with the accessories. It used to be my accessories, if they even got to 10 reps, it was like for a week or two. You know what I mean? And then it was like, make it heavier, and the reps kind of drop down. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So yeah, a lot of my accessory work is like kind of in the 10 to 15 range, which is something that I probably just recently started doing that, like within the last 18 months,
Why?
2 years. Because people told me to.
Because Coach said.
Yeah. Quite honestly, I
Yeah.
probably would not have just done it myself. But
Right.
it's like I put my trust in coaches, and right now Eric obviously being one of them, and he says do it, and I just do it. I'm kind of like that proverbial soldier.
Same.
And it's funny because I don't really think of my training being very high volume.
Right.
Simply because like a lot of times I'll do 5 exercises. Like just last night I did 3 exercises down at the gym, and then I just came home and did 2 more here. But at the same time, even though the list is not very lofty, it seems like I'm always training. It seems like I'm always checking something off of my list. So if I was to venture to say like what my volume is now compared to what it probably was 5 or 10 years ago, it's probably actually quite a bit more.
Yeah. But I think that's too, I don't know why until like today, this is just spurring some like, holy shit, that is really weird. Like everybody goes to the gym, goes to do their workout, and you're like, I do a few sets here, a few sets there, a few sets here. And yeah, and that could really be a way to manage recovery, to increase volume. It could be because most people don't have that kind of frequency of like 2-3 times a day. Yeah, explain. And I know we've talked about the checklist thing a ton, but how long have you been doing that? A year, maybe? No, a little over.
It's almost 2 years.
Yeah.
I want to say, and to be honest with you, and the way that Eric's got it outlined right now, it's a little more structured with my big lifts. So like right now, it's like and it's I'm just gonna say day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4 because I really don't necessarily stick to Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday like that. But usually day 1 is squat and bench. Day 2 is usually either all 3 or just squat and bench.
Okay.
Day 3 can be sometimes just bench. And if I decide to move that deadlift from day 2, then I'll do it on day 3. And then day 4 is usually, just squat and bench. And he's got it periodized, so like usually the first day of the week is pretty high volume. It's 10s, week 1, 9s, then 8s and repetitions, week by week. And usually the next time is about, really, really pretty low. It's either singles or doubles. And then the other 2 days are kind of middle of the road. You know what I mean? So he's got it pretty structured as far as that goes. And I pretty much adhere to that, I'm going to say 80% of the time. Now, where the checklist really comes into play is my list of accessories.
Okay.
He's given me a list of accessories. Some things I progress in the wave format that, Eric's outlined in all the pyramid books. It's
the double progression.
Exactly. And then other things, it's just a single progression where it's work the reps up, increase the weight, work the reps up, increase the weight. And sometimes it'll take me 2 months, to increase the load on, say, like a curl. You know what I mean? And I'm slowly trying to work that up to 15 repetitions. So yeah, that's the checklist. And really, that's really random. It's just a matter of what I feel like doing. Like last night I did my seal rows. I really prefer to do my seal rows and my hip thrusts here. So I've got like the perfect setup, out there on my back porch. But most of the time I get that done really early in the week. So it's kind of random as far as that goes. I just make sure to get it all done.
Okay. Very cool. What's your nutrition like about now? If you know. I know you have like a ballpark, but I know we had to get after you in the last meeting because Brad was trying to intermittent fast for no reason, which let's just say is not a problem. But for those of you out there who do that, and we're not saying that's a bad thing, it just cannot be one of the more optimal meal frequency ranges that we'd recommend, especially when you had like one tiny meal and one giant meal. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Is that still going on?
It's not been good. Yeah, it's not. It's gotten a little bit better since you guys got on me, But yeah, I mean, I guess it's just more so kind of, what was my reasoning for really doing this?
It
was kind
of
like
convenience.
A little bit. Which it was kind of, I came to the conclusion that, basically standing here working for, anywhere between 5 and 6 hours a day, and just the weight training that I'm doing, I could gain weight really easily.
Yeah.
And it was kind of scaring me. It's like I can't really eat 3 meals the way that I want to eat, and not gain weight. And so I just kind of came to the realization that I could pretty much stay the same weight, stay pretty lean, and perform decently if I just had 2,000 calorie meals, 1,000 calorie meals.
Okay.
And I was satiated, and I was performing pretty good, and I wouldn't be hungry. And 2,000 calories, let's face it, that's not a whole lot,
Yeah.
I wouldn't really track it per se, I would just kind of be mindful of it in my head. First meal, I just kind of eat whatever I felt like. And then usually the second meal, I'd be like, well, that was really a lot of carbs and fat. I better have a whole lot of protein in this meal, or vice versa. Like I would say, okay, well, we're going to go have the football game tonight, which is going to entail pizza. So I better have a whole lot of protein this morning, and then go have pizza, have my carbs and my fat tonight, and it was working for the most part. My weight was staying, pretty level.
That's crazy at 2,000.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was probably more than that because I was just tracking in my head.
Yeah.
You know how that is. You track long enough, you can just kind of tell.
Yeah.
That's 300, that's 400.
But even
that's 350.
21, 22 is kind of not... You don't need to eat a whole lot to keep your weight, huh?
I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, which is a real catch. It's a 180 from where I used to be. Like when I used to train folks at the gym that I used to own, it seemed like I needed 3,000 calories just to basically not lose weight.
It's because up and down, moving stuff and talking and
moving plates and exactly, and spotting people and demonstrating. And so has my metabolism dropped? I mean, the God-given metabolism doesn't change much. It's just that my activity has gone way down.
Yeah.
So I've gotten better. Now I'm usually having about 3 meals a day, and I'm making sure that if it's a meal that's pretty carb and fat heavy, I have a protein shake with it.
Okay.
You guys told me spread the protein out. You can do better than that. You know better than that. And so I have been paying attention to that. So it's kind of the same thing, but it's just, now it's kind of like, it's like 3 700 calorie meals, or maybe it's a couple 8s in a 4 or something like that, So, but that's kind of how it's going right now.
If you were to ballpark your macros ish for the audience, what would you say are typical aims of yours or typical intakes? Whether you aim or not.
I would guess it's probably it's in the 100s for protein. It's probably anywhere between 150 and probably 180.
Okay.
Maybe a little bit lower, maybe like 140 to 170.
Okay.
Carbs are probably really not that high. They're probably like anywhere between 225 and 275, I would guess. And then the fats are kind of probably a little bit higher. They're probably running like 70,
Okay.
So,
cool. I forgot to ask too. Oh, go ahead.
I guess we can put that out.
Yeah. What, you don't do cardio right now, right? At all?
Not really.
Okay.
No, not really.
Just want to throw that in there for anyone who's like, oh shit, he doesn't eat anything. It's like, well, he doesn't, a few reps here and there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. I don't do cardio. I stand here all the time, basically, and I mean, my weight training, even though it does take me sometimes 4 hours to complete, it's probably an actual half an hour of actual work,
Yeah. And I have written here on our like outline of all the questions that everybody gets asked, and we, go over our current athletic goals, training, nutrition, and mindset or approaches or psychology or something like that. Is there something that you really mentally shifted in this past year in any way? Are you like gentler with yourself? Are you more aggressive with yourself? Do you need accountability? Is coaching different? Do you maybe could it be just relying on Eric? Because I think this time last year maybe you just started with Eric.
Mm-hmm. Because I've been pretty much the same now for about for about 2 years training wise. It's like
Yeah.
I've really shelved programming myself and said, you know what, let's put that away. You know, we can use that at another time. Right now we've got this great opportunity and these great resources.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as long as someone is going to tell me what to do that I really, really put a lot of value in, I'm just going to do what they say.
Right.
And that's been the approach for, at least a couple of years now. I think probably the thing that if there's something that changed,
Mm-hmm.
like in this last year, it was, I was tracking macros right up until we went to London.
Okay.
And then we went to London and, for whatever reason, I just quit. I just kind of told myself when we went to London, I was going to give myself a break, not track macros. And when we came back, I just never started again.
And that was July? We went in July, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
Exactly. Yeah, that was the very beginning of July. That's probably really the only thing that has really, really changed, because I got a lot of enjoyment out of just looking stuff up on MyFitnessPal. Because every time I'd look something up, yes, it was for me to track my macros and make sure I was hitting things. But every time I did that, I learned something. I learned that, oh, well, you know what? Look at there. Pork is actually kind of lean, Just all the time. All the time I was learning something, and so that was one of the things that I really kind of got enjoyment from it, was just kind of, every time I looked something up that was something new that I didn't eat, or hadn't eaten before, I learned something, and so, yeah, like Eric said, even though I'm not tracking macros, I still made weight at Raw Nationals in October. It wasn't like I ballooned up to 185, 190 pounds. I still am staying upper 170s, low 180s. But yeah, I guess that's really the only really big thing that's changed.
It just kind of naturally did.
Yeah, it was just kind of an evolution.
Yeah, it's not like you were like, I'm not. It's just like, we're on vacation and it came back. It just never happened again. I think that's so, that's how all my big shifts happen, is like with vacations or with some travel or some big event, is always how I have like learned to relax a little every time like one of those happens. It's never been like because of a decision I made, because I was always too much of a pussy to make a decision. It was always stuff like that. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. Cool. It was kind of like Berto's saying, it's like those people always sacrifice an animal so that the sun comes up one day, and then they don't sacrifice the animal and the sun comes up, and you're like, oh, it's okay.
Yeah, exactly.
We just kind of, I just kind of figured out naturally. We were going on vacation, we came back, and guess what? The sun came up. We're still the same weight. We're still looking like an athlete. So it's all okay.
Cool. What about bodybuilding now? I know you've said in other, because oh my god, we've been doing this for like over 6 months now. Yeah. I know that we've said different things in the podcast now that I've had you. We went from, I think your first interview, you're like, I just don't see myself bodybuilding again unless all 5 of us do it. And then I feel like in some other one, or maybe it was one of our meetings that you were like, kind of, maybe not. Like, how do you feel about bodybuilding for you competing in it? Do you think you would again? Do you have an itch?
Say that again?
I said, do you have an itch at all, or is it still kind of just not in the cards right now?
No, not really. Not really.
Cool.
I think that right now my mindset is pretty much still, it would take like all 5 of us, going to the Muscle Mayhem in Sacramento, to
something crazy like that.
Yeah. Sometimes with me, it's always this evolving thing. Like even when I competed in the Pro USA with Alberto in 2000, I think that was 14.
Yeah. Yeah, it was 14.
It wasn't like I planned to do it. It was just like, I'm getting sick of being a little bit chubby here. I'm just going to start tracking my macros. And then one thing led to another. Pretty soon I was shredded, and I just decided, just kind of like last minute in the last month, I'm just going to go ahead and do it. I might as well.
That's awesome.
So yeah, that was kind of, what I did then. So, who knows? My focus could very well shift sometime in 2017, But yeah, just right now, I was thinking about this the other day, Andrea. It's like, I remember when I first started training way back in, like, I think it was 1999 or 2000. you don't really know anything, but you're buying supplements and you're working, you're working in the gym and you're doing your thing and you're really enjoying it. You're just enjoying taking your supplements and eating your food. You don't really know what you're doing. You don't even know that what you're doing is going to get you like lean and abs and et cetera, et cetera. You're doing it because you're convinced it's going to happen,
Right.
And not so much that I'm convinced that I'm going to get really, really super lean. I'm just enjoying living that lifestyle again of course, now I'm training smarter. I'm actually training for something, which actually gives you a lot of incentive, to kind of train when you don't necessarily feel like,
Right.
But it's kind of like that same feeling, like when I very, very first started training, and I'd be back here mixing up my protein shakes, and just making sure I was eating my food, and making sure that I was training and progressing and really not even weighing myself, and it's just a little hint of that I'm really enjoying,
That's awesome. And I forget that wasn't even 2 years ago, or just 2.5 years ago that you were just on stage. I forget it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago, really. If you think about our whole theme of taking your time, and it's a slow sport, and the turtle versus the hare.
Yeah, and you're only, how many pounds up are you right now from stage weight?
From stage weight, I was about 162.
Yeah.
So the last time I weighed myself, I was 179.
Okay.
So that's 72,
15.
that's 17 pounds, I guess.
15 to 17-ish most days.
Yeah, something like that. I haven't weighed myself in a while, and with the Thanksgiving eats, I'm sure I've bumped up.
So yeah, this weekend is not the weekend to weigh in, unless you're in season, of course. But yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
So as a coach now, okay, anything else like as an athlete that you think I might have missed anything you're doing now that you're like, this has really been a big deal for me this year? Just checking the boxes?
No, not really. Not really. Other than, I think I've told you guys, I'm really enjoying just training at home, and it's, even when I don't feel like training, when you're training for a bigger purpose, when you're training, like with grid, you cannot wait to get to the gym. You're really enjoying your training. And even when you maybe don't feel like it, you're probably doing it anyway,
Yeah. I don't know if I don't ever
Would you
feel
say
like
that
it. I can't remember the last time I didn't feel like it.
Really?
Yeah.
That's admirable.
Yeah.
There's times when I'm like, it's cold outside, it's late, I don't really feel like it.
Yeah, it might be
I
that.
sometimes will do it anyway.
If I have to wake up early to train, I don't like it. I'm gonna go anyways, but like that's the only thing where I'm like, shit, I have to do this. But it's never like I don't want to do it. It's like that's the only thing I'll even get up for. Really, if it's like I feel like getting up early to start this, and it's like I'll sleep in on purpose for training so I know I have a better day. Like it's stuff like that. Yeah.
You have a hint of it. It's like you don't really want to go out and get up out of bed and go train, but at the same time, it's like this bigger thing in mind that you're working
I don't
for.
want to go out of bed, but I want to train more than I don't want to get out of bed. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
exactly. Yeah.
Bigger purpose is a good way to put it. Yeah. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
So then coaching wise, is there any big lessons you've learned, any things that you've really done with your athletes that you're finding really work, anything new that you've tried? I think, what did Eric say, that his big thing was like really implementing more breaks in the diet, knowing when and how often to feed people, having the multi-day refeeds, things like that. What about you? Is there anything that you've been trying this year that's been like, oh shit, this is really working? Besides your Google Docs. I guess you could talk about that.
I think along with Eric, I think, it seems like it's almost standard operating procedure that I really forget when we started having, the more frequent diet breaks and the more frequent high days, where we'll cluster the high days together sometimes. And I guess really I kind of started doing that last year when I was cutting down, to the 165s or the 162s.
Right.
So I guess it has been a good year or over a year now, I guess, that we've been doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing how effective that is. It's amazing how just more frequent diet breaks and just really periodizing your nutrition like we do our training, there's really, it's really been a game changer, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it seems like we've been doing that for a while, you know what I mean? So it doesn't seem like it's really all that new to me,
What else does?
What else does?
Feels new. What's something that you've been
I think
with?
really it's something that feels new to me, and I think I touched on this in either one of our meetings or maybe it was like a social media post or something like that. But this is something I learned from you, is how much information you can get from a person in just a quick 10 or 15-minute phone call.
Yeah.
Excuse me. It used to be, and it's probably just because, Brad is always being, constantly humbled. But it used to be, I would get all my data gathered from the person. I'd get my spreadsheet. I've got one right here that I'm working on right now. And it was like, I got everything I need. You know what I mean? And I can write this perfect program for this person, just with everything I've got right here. And then, I don't really remember what the turning point was, but I think it was about the same time that you came on and were saying, I need to have that Skype or that, I don't know how you guys do it,
Yeah.
It seemed like right around that same time, there was something that I missed. There was something that I missed with somebody that it was like, the client even said, that was something I didn't even think about telling you,
Mm-hmm.
And I can't even really remember what it was, to be honest with you. And then it was like, gosh, that was something that I really probably could have just picked up just with a quick, 5 or 10 minute phone call.
Mm-hmm.
And then not long after that, I was starting a new client and I was stressed out. I was like, this client is not giving me my data, my numbers that I love so much, and
Yeah.
I got to get this client going by this weekend. And so I was like, screw it. I'm just going to call him. You know what I mean? And so I called this gal, and I mean, this gal, she's a freak. She's like losing weight on like 80, 90, 100 grams of fat every day.
Awesome.
And she weighed like 135, 140 pounds, and she's like taking 200 grams of protein. You know what I mean? And if I hadn't taken that time to just make that quick phone call with her and really kind of ask her, are these numbers that you gave me here, does this happen all the time?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if I hadn't done that, I probably would have there was no way I would have given her that much fat and that much protein. You know what I mean? With the almighty Brad approach, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, as it turns out, the gal dieted like that the whole time. I think the lowest we got her fat was like 70.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And she won back-to-back shows. She won her pro card one weekend. I think a month later, she won her pro show. She won like $500 or something like that. And that was a big game changer for me. And now, unless I feel totally comfortable, and we've talked a lot back and forth in email. One gal I just recently we did back and forth vlogs, just back and forth video vlogs, I think 3 times. Unless it's a circumstance like that, I make a phone call.
Cool. That's awesome. And then I know I said don't talk about it, but I know how much you've loved it. Your Google Sheets, your Google Drive. I think that's changed your coaching game, huh?
Yeah. Did I start that this year? I think I did, didn't I?
Because it was after we got our new emails.
Yeah.
So it was,
That's been a game changer. Yeah, that's made me much more efficient, because you guys know this, and I don't know if very many people know this, but my internet here is dreadful. It's dreadful. And you know what used to take sometimes, especially with our spreadsheets, Andrea, that have a lot of the formulas in them where they're calculating tonnages, and it would sometimes take 45 seconds for me to download a sheet that somebody emailed me. And so, of course, it doesn't sound like much, but you take 45 seconds times 8 people, On top of that, it's like Eric said, when he's in his groove and, he gets interrupted, sure, maybe he only gets interrupted for 30 or 45 seconds, but now he's got to get in his groove again. And sometimes that will take another 1 or 2 minutes to get back in your groove, Or Or if the kid's here, he'll ask me a question, or I need to go help him with his homework. Well, now there's another 2 or 3 minutes that's gotten me away from this.
Mm-hmm.
With the G Drive, I mean, I go to my G Drive, I double click on their spreadsheet, it pops up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's right there. Everything that they put in there, I can see it. You know, if I want to bring their attention to something, I can just tag them in a quick message. They get an email instantly that's got a comment in their G Drive.
Yeah.
If I edit it up, they can see everything I put in there. Sometimes things that would slow me down was I would make little meta notes or something in my head of future things that I would want to do, you know, with a client.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't have a way of tracking it, you know, because usually when I'm done with the sheet, I just move on to the next client. Next week, they send me the new one. That meta note that I had is not on their version of their sheet.
Okay.
I'll put notes in here galore. Sometimes I'll put links to my video with a little title. Here's where I talk about this. In future weeks, when they're checking in, I'll be like, oh, what was it? You know, and I'll just, oh, yeah, that's right. You know, there's my note right there. You know, I just put it in right there. Yeah, I don't know how I ever existed without putting all of my protocols on G Drive. It's all alphabetical by their name, you know, so it's like their name and then 3DMJ bodybuilding prep, powerlifting prep, bikini. Because sometimes I forget, is this person doing bikini or is this person doing figure? So it's all right there for me, you know.
That's awesome.
So yeah, that's been a game changer too. That's a good point that you brought up.
I just know how much you love it. It's funny that we all have our systems. Like I have them very systematized, but mine's different than yours. I didn't fully adopt the G Drive thing that way, and I'm not sure why. Probably because I just from day one had an anal system, but that did not sound good. But you know what I mean. Anything else coaching wise? Anything else that's been a big deal?
You know, I think probably the biggest thing is just my confidence this year.
Oh, okay.
My confidence really gone up this year.
That's right. You were saying how good of a year you had.
Yeah, it's been a really good year. You know, I had one gal win her pro show. Mm-hmm. I had 2 or 3 of my athletes that were working with me win their pro cards. Really good athletes too. And I had a couple really tough cases. Mm-hmm. And yeah, these folks, maybe they didn't do super, super well in their competition as far as placing goes. But just the fact that I was able to get them lean using the tools that we've been, you know, just discovering, you know, through all of Eric's research and things that we've been doing anecdotally, you know, with our clients and stuff that Jeff has, you know, kind of been figuring out with himself. I was able to basically crack a couple of really tough cases. And that's a good feeling, you know, when you have that much success with your athlete, you know, and I think that probably the next thing that I would have to say is that my confidence has really gone up this year. I remember last year at one point, Jeff was just like on fire. Jeff was just like, I've got this mastered and I've got this way of progressing mastered. And I've really figured out a way to, you know, to get them through plateaus and stuff. And I kind of feel like that now. I remember thinking that, gosh, I wish I had that kind of confidence when he was really on fire, you know?
Yeah, because it's scary. People, I don't think realize that. Like
it is scary.
Yeah, we welcome the responsibility, but sometimes you're like, this is my best guess, but like, shit, I hope this finally cracks it, like you said.
Exactly, yeah. And some people, let's face it, they put a lot of value into their competitive aspirations on the bodybuilding stage. And so they're basically trusting us to bring out the best in them, and that sometimes is a scary thing.
Yeah, if I think about it, it's scary. Like if I think about the person, it's like, okay, this is this person that I know really well. We know what to do. But I think about the broad scale of things. It is scary. I remember I wouldn't do it before you guys for a long time. Mm-hmm. So cool.
Yeah, which is one of the things that I really, really respected about you is that you respected that. You understood how important that was. You know what I mean? And that was one thing that was like, this gal is somebody that we want to have in our corner.
Yeah. It's I don't take it lightly, that's for sure. What about non-coaching professional goals? Not professional, but like, are there some things in the next year that you're looking forward to doing outside of coaching? Obviously Eric had his PhD and all that stuff, but what do you think you'd like to do this year? It's a little different.
Yeah, we've talked about my little deloads and taper handbook. I'm really making some good progress on that right now, because I really think that people don't understand the value of that. I think that could be a game changer in a lot of people's plateaus.
Okay, talk about that a little bit, because I don't think they know what you're talking about. Like, the audience hasn't heard hasn't heard you talk about it as much as I have. So talk about this book.
As far as the book. Okay, the book specifically. Okay, good. Well, it's just a little handbook. It's just a little e-handbook, or you can print it out or whatever. But I'm talking like a really easy read. Something with big words, not very many pages, lots of pictures and graphs.
To the point. Yeah.
But really, really good content.
Right.
And I want to kind of have it. This is how deloads and tapers work in other competitive sports, and kind of show how it works, and then kind of talk a teensy bit, because Eric already talks about deloads in the pyramids.
True.
And so kind of what I want to do is I just want to expand on it,
right, and
touch a little bit on what he talks about, but then kind of have the deload for each individual circumstance.
Right.
Kind of like a taper and deload for your high volume junkie. A taper and deload for the person that has to 1 rep max every time they're in the gym. The taper and deload for the person that doesn't even know that they're not even really maximizing, what they can do in the gym. They're not working hard enough in the gym. How does that person deload?
Right.
Just kind of almost like a plug and play deload selection type of a thing. Oh,
that's awesome.
Well, this is me. I need to do this deload, and so that's kind of what I envision it being. And like I said, I think that's a game changer. I don't think people realize the progress that can be made on the other side of a deload.
Right. If they can manage their fatigue appropriately.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Because I just this last weekend, I had a competitive powerlifter was just like shocked. He was like, "How the heck did I do this?" And I'm like, that's the Superman effect. That's that feeling of when you've run. And he was leery. I took him through a 2.5 week taper. Never tapered that long before,
Okay.
And as long as you say, I'm going to go ahead and do it. He was shocked. He was shocked at what he got on the platform. And that's the kind of thing that, imagine having a new block of training starting out with that same feeling each and every time,
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm really hoping to get across with this.
We look forward to it. That's cool.
Yeah.
I know you've already been working on it a while.
And with your guys' help, I know it's going to be pretty darn epic.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I mean, outside of coaching, and kind of our work, I mean, again, I don't want to get too far off topic. Right. I've told you guys before what I just feel like I'm a natural coach,
Right.
And I really feel like, and I don't know how I'm going to go about doing it. I could probably just go to my pastor and just ask him. But I really kind of want to coach youths. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And by youth, kids like Xander's age, I want to kind of coach them and guide them in the Catholic faith.
Okay.
'Cause I feel like I've got a unique way of doing it. I think I've got a unique way of making it kind of tough love. But at the same time, number one, making it love, and number two, just kind of like almost like a smack in the face reality of, oh my gosh, I never really even thought about that, And I think it's kind of my little niche could be like 13 to 17-year-olds.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And that's something that and even, I really like coaching, and if I could do it in my faith, I think that's going to help me get into heaven. Which God knows I need all the help I can get.
But because you also enjoy it, not just as a ticket up there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I mean, I've really enjoyed watching Xander's coach his work this year with his football team. That's been really fun. And even if I got back into coaching youth football again, that would not be something that I wouldn't mind doing maybe not immediately like next year, but maybe in future years, you know.
That's cool.
But yeah, I really want to take that God-given ability of being a pretty good coach and being able to put things in a language that people understand pretty darn well and use it for other avenues, you know.
It's admirable. Yeah, and it's not off topic because it goes into the next area, which is like hobbies or out of work things. And as I think since I've known you, Xander and his football have been a big chunk of your life. Mm-hmm. Or just football in general, right? For a while.
You know, I've always been a football fan.
Yeah.
I've always been a football fan. And now that Xander's loving it more, you know, it's kind of brought me back to it. Because I kind of went through a hiatus there where I wasn't really following it too much. Uh-huh. You know what I mean? I think it was just because I was really into my bodybuilding, you know. But yeah, here as of late, you know, I just am all about football. One of my current, like, high-level addictions is fantasy football.
Really? I didn't know you did the fantasy leagues. I didn't know that.
This is my first year doing it. And Andrea, I'm digging it. It's totally changed how I watch football. You know, it really has. Like, just the other night, I was rooting for both teams' defenses, which sounds really odd. But one of the defenses was my defense on my fantasy football team. And then, of course, on the other team's offense was my opponent's quarterback. So, naturally, I wanted my defense to do good. And I wanted the other team's defense, you know, to stop the other team's quarterback. So I'm really digging it, you know. And right now, like Tuesday night is Fantasy Football Live on the NFL Network. So I'm watching it, and I'm looking for the gems. Who's out there right now that nobody knows about that's scoring points, you know, that I could probably pick up, you know. And shoot, right now, I mean, I'm projected to win this week, which is probably going to put me in first place in my league.
All right.
I'm digging it. I am really digging fantasy football. That's
awesome.
Yeah.
Anything else?
It's totally changed my approach toward football. And then, of course, my son, you know.
Right.
My son's been my addiction for a long time. You know, and his football season is not over yet, believe it or not. We've got a chance to go to San Jose and do a Best of the West. So, again, that's football. What else? You know, the wife's got me hooked on Walking Dead.
Yes, I know this.
Just watched tonight's episode, you know. It's like a family gathering now. It's like a family gathering. Sunday night, we watch Walking Dead. Sometimes the Walking Dead episodes are kind of traumatic, you know.
So you have to recover, obviously.
Exactly. So then right after The Walking Dead is The Talking Dead, which is a little talk show that's hosted by Chris Hardwick that's freaking hilarious, that is sometimes like therapy, you know, to recover from The Walking Dead, you know, episode. I'd say that's not as high as an addiction as my fantasy football. It's kind of a Wednesday night, you know, tradition. But,
nice.
But yeah, I think family is kind of something that I had a shift this year as far as like the importance of family. You know what I mean? I don't really know why. Maybe it's just because I've had a glimpse of getting old and maybe, you know, our short time on this earth. But, you know, it used to be that like if it was going to cost us a lot of money, we probably better not do it, you know, because we got the future to think about. You got to be able to pay bills, you know. And, you know, this year it's kind of been like, we got the chance to go to Florida for the Pop Warner Super Bowl. Count me in, you know. I'll figure it out. I'll put it on my freaking credit card, you know. I mean, the last few months have been kind of stressful, you know, as far as finances go. And in the past, that would have affected me a lot more. But right now, it's kind of like I need to take advantage of him being 13 years old, you know. I need to take advantage of us being able to travel and go see my dad, you know, and go see my brother in Portland that we just went and saw here a couple weeks ago. You know? Shoot, every Wednesday night now, when I drive into Reno, I'm calling my dad, you know. I don't know what's caused that little bit of a shift, but family's kind of risen up in my hierarchy and surpassed things that I used to put a lot of importance with, like saving money and finances and just not even just foregoing doing things with the family if it cost too much money or if it took away from the job or whatever, it's up there.
Okay, cool. Is there anything, as we kind of come to an end, are there any like really big things outside of, like you talked about with your book and maybe coaching young individuals, that goals or resolutions or things you'd like to change throughout 2017? Because it's almost here.
It is. Yeah, it is. Nothing comes to mind, to be honest with you, except probably just to keep the evolution of these recent things that have happened with me, like in the end of 2016. Just
these recent things.
Recent things being the family thing. This is, believe it or not, just like in the last 3 or 4 months where it's been like, okay, we're going to go to Portland. Let's just drop $800 and let's just go. You know what I mean? Continue to evolve that, continue to evolve, the importance of my faith and trying to spread it to youths and just trying to, I guess, evangelize, I guess is the word.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, nothing else really comes to mind that I can think of, because like all these events these things I'm just recently talking about are kind of like my New Year's resolutions. A lot of times go from like November to March,
Okay, I got you.
Like I start working on things like November and December. Sometimes not even things that I'm mindful of or really like have the intent of doing. They just kind of happen.
Right.
And then it's not like I flip a switch, boom, go buy a gym membership, and I'm in the gym every day for the first 2 weeks in January. To use that kind of analogy with the New Year's resolutioners that we always see in the gym.
Right.
For me, it's kind of like, I get aware of something. Sometimes I kind of make plans, and then, I keep trying to make it better and better and better and better. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
It's kind of like something where I'm like constantly trying to work on it and make it just a little bit better and just make it a little bit more, fulfilling, I guess you might say.
Yeah. How do you, if you do, work on making yourself more aware? Like how you said things I just kind of become aware of them. Is there like a checkpoint, a system? Does it hit you like a ton of bricks one day? Or is there you knowing something's off? Like how does that tend to come up for you? If you don't mind me asking.
No, that's actually fine. That's actually fine, because I need to really think about that too. It's kind of like, how do these things kind of happen? Because I want it less and less to hit me like a ton of bricks. I mean, obviously things are going to happen, and there's going to be times when things just hit you like a ton of bricks. But I think I try as best I can. I used to not process things very well. You know what I mean? It would be, sometimes I would have an emotional response, and I would either get mad or I would get sad, or I'd be like, the coach in me would be like, okay, let's fix this. You know what I mean? And so now I want to say that I listen a whole lot better. Okay. I'll actually kind of like stop and listen, and I'll try to have a much more objective view, kind of like non-emotional. Okay. I guess you might say, and so, yeah, a lot of times I'll try to like kind of like step out of myself, you know what I mean? And I'll kind of like try to be that third party, that's in a negotiation or something like that. And I'll say, okay, let's look at this from a non-emotional standpoint and kind of, evaluate it a little bit better that way, especially when it comes to like high tension, type of a thing. But I've tried to have that trickle down kind of into everyday kind of just systems. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, let's detach the emotion from this. Let's, listen, maybe ask a few questions, to kind of take a page out of your book, what do you mean by this, and then I think lastly, just try to be as, how should I say this without making it sound bad? Let's just try to make our communication almost as obvious as possible. You know what I mean? Like sometimes I'll get especially in today's day and age, because we don't a lot of times talk face to face. We, kind of communicate via text.
Yeah.
I'll get a reply about something, and I'll be like, you know what? I need to have this person talk to me like a kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'll have to just come right back to them. I'll say, you know what? I'm sorry. Maybe I'm a little bit dense, but I'm not following you here. Explain what you mean like I'm a 10-year-old, And then a lot of times a good amount of communication kind of comes out of that. And so, yeah, I think that's probably my new system that I've kind of learned in the last maybe year, 18 months, something like that.
Very cool.
Is just try to make communication as obvious as possible.
Okay.
No, what's that term? Passive aggressive. No passive aggressive.
Right.
Comments. No, none of that. Let's just make it like kids. Just trying to talk. But yeah, sorry, I probably got long-winded on that, didn't I?
No, that's good. It's important. No, I think that's good. That's really good. And if you were to compare ourselves to those New Year's resolutioners, which I know we have, I don't want to say we have things figured out, right? But we're further along in our athletic journeys. Are there things where you're like, man, I wish I did this a little bit better going forth as an athlete? Is it a nutritional protocol? Is it a training protocol? Is it an adherence issue? Is there something that you're not quite doing at a level that you could or should be doing? Besides the protein intake thing?
Yeah, again, a good question. Are we talking like me as an athlete or like me as a coach to other athletes?
No. You personally, okay. With your goal of, I want to make it to 1,300 total, what do you feel like you could be taking care of a little bit better?
A little bit better. Okay, good question. Well, I know that I need to eat better. I know that I need to eat more fruits and vegetables. Does that really help? I don't know. Maybe that's why I'm fighting it. You know what I mean? Is there's that
yeah.
question mark. It's like, does eating clean really matter all that much? I mean, it's not like I never eat a freaking vegetable. When I go to Reno, I mean, I'm not at home. I eat Subway sandwiches. It's loaded with vegetables. I probably get all my servings of fruits and vegetables in those 4-foot-long sandwiches that I eat in 2 days, but I think I could eat a little bit better. I think I could be a little bit more mindful of eating less ice cream and, things like that. I think probably my blood work shows that. My cholesterol's a little bit on the high side.
Oh, really? Is it? See, I didn't know that.
It's not a lot on the side. The cutoff's 200. I think I'm 212.
I did. Yeah, I did know that. Okay.
Yeah, because I got all that blood work done here recently.
Mm-hmm.
And it's never been high in the past. But then again, I've been clean eating a lot, in the past too. But yeah, again, is that really going to help me get my 600 kilo, which is kind of my second goal, total, and maybe that's why I fight it a little bit. And so, gosh, I don't know. Is there something, maybe,
you can say no. It's okay.
Well,
you can be like, nah, it's pretty much working. I'm good. And that's fine.
Because there is things that I would like to improve on, like this thing in my lat that's been bugging me forever, that little niggle right there. In one of our meetings, you said, maybe you should get that looked at, and it's kind of like, maybe that's what I should probably work on. Because, I mean, obviously my training is going really, really good. But I'd like to deadlift more. And I can't deadlift more because of this little pain in my lat, Maybe I need to be a little bit more mindful and research more on proactive / therapy type things when you get niggles in your muscles, I've been, I'm always looking at stuff. I'm looking at that Graston technique where they take the metal objects and they Graston, that's it, where they're rubbing them on. Maybe that's the one thing that I need to do is to find ways to keep myself healthier so that I can train heavier and train and deadlift more often, and yeah, kind of things like that. Because I mean, I'm always doing my mobility work and the habits that I know that, we've kind of discovered really, really work. But maybe I need to be more mindful of other things that can help heal things like my lat. and things. Because I mean, you and I both have kind of experienced injuries that have kind of tended to linger. Maybe we need to figure out ways to nip those in the bud so that we can get back to those things that we like to do and back to progressing the way that we want to progress. I guess that's probably see how good this is. It's like just need to talk.
It's talk therapy. I know. Podcasting and vlogging is the best, just for me. No, but these are questions we should ask ourselves, right? More often. Mm-hmm. Maybe we should do this more than once a year, but maybe not publicly because we don't annoy our listeners.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's good.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right.
It's good to talk.
Well,
it's funny because you always talk about this. You always talk about how good and how productive just, talking to so-and-so is. I came to this realization last night just talking, and it's like, now I see why.
See, that's a good takeaway. I think that you and Eric and I, like we say, we talk too much, but I think it's just kind of how we process. Or it's definitely how I process. I know that. So
we just need to be out
so I went through all the questions. Yeah. I went through all the questions. We are done. Is there anything you'd like to leave the listeners with as we partake in your the final minutes here of your 2017? Or would we call this 2017 recap or the 2017? 2016 recap.
Yeah.
Going forward.
Other than just thank you to all the listeners, and all the folks that tag 3D Muscle Journey, on whatever, Twitter or the Instas or, whatever, there's so much information out there that it's really hard to keep track of it all. And I'm sure there's a lot more that I'm aware of. And for all of that, it's like just, a million thank yous, a million, props, a million, whatever you want to say, just, I don't think any of us would be where we are and would have as much happiness from this, if it wasn't for all those people out there that just listen to us either ramble or post silly stuff on Twitter or whatever, It's a very, it's a big honor. That's for darn sure.
Ditto all that. Thank you so much for letting me talk to you, Brad. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for having me. Alrighty.
All right.